All right, joining us now here as we're recording this on a Tuesday night. She has just made her way into downtown Chattanooga. She's getting ready to play in a pretty cool tournament for the Florida Vibe. She's in her second season now with the Vibe. They just started this playing in Clearwater over the weekend against the Texas Smoke, and they're going to play some other teams this week. We're going to talk about momentarily. Former Seminole, Florida State Seminole. She's wearing her Seminole colors proudly, but also has done some commentary for various places this year, including Florida State softball, including Tennessee baseball. So success seems to find her way. And I speak of Caylan Arnold joining us back here on In the Circle D1 softball. How you doing?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here and be talking to you again. And like you said, right now, big things happening for Tennessee baseball, big things happening for Florida State baseball. So I'm kind of in a tough spot here because both my teams are in Omaha, and but it's awesome. It's been a great time.
Yes, but you got some important stuff. As we mentioned, you're in Chattanooga because that's right now where a lot of folk eyeballs are going to be at this week because there's a big tournament. The Vibe are involved. Just tell the audience about this tournament that will get going Wednesday. As this, by the time this airs, this will already have started, but it'll be going throughout the week.
Definitely. So we're in Chattanooga. We're playing in the Scenic City Cup for the AFP, which is the Association of Fast Pitch Professionals. The league includes the Florida Vibe. It includes the Chattanooga Steam, which is a new team this year. Oklahoma City Spark, this is their second year, and the New York Rise, this is their first year. So we're so excited to be here, so excited to play in this tournament. Tomorrow we will play the Steam at 11 a.m. And then the games will just kind of roll from there. The championship is going to be on Saturday. So the third seed and the fourth seed will play at 11 a.m. and the first and second seed will play at 7:30 on Saturday. And it's all happening at Frost Stadium, which is the home of the UTC Mocs. And we're just really excited to be here. It's going to be some great softball.
That is tremendous. How did this tournament come about? How did Vibe, from that standpoint, exciting here to face other competition? Lots of new players on all the teams. You mentioned the new franchises. Just tell us how all this came about.
So the Florida Vibe, this is their third year as a team, so still pretty new. This is my second year with the team, but Ryan Moore, who is our owner and founder, he got involved with the Collegiate Summer League. So he spearheaded that, the FGCL Florida Gulf Coast League. And from there, the Florida Vibe was born, and he wanted to get involved in softball and collegiate softball and then in women's pro softball. So he really started things for us, and he brought on players from all across the country and has continued to grow this. And now we have this league and the Chattanooga Steam. Like I said, they're owned by Jill and Jeremy Higdon, who own Connect Sports and Fury Platinum. They're also involved with Alliance tournaments. So we're super excited to have them, and we're excited to have the Spark and the following that they bring, having all of the, Oklahoma players that they have. We're really excited about that. And they have some other really great players as well, like Sydney Sherrill, my former teammate. And yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then this came about because these people have good intentions and they want to grow professional softball. So they have done everything that they can to try to get this league started, try to do what's best for us as players, and really just try to grow the game. So this tournament is in connect with the Scenic City Travel Ball Tournament, which gives travel ball players an opportunity to come and watch pro softball and something that they can aspire to do in the future. And that's really what all this is about, is trying to grow the game on a professional level.
And of course, you got some new teammates on your team this year, including Elena Vaughter, obviously coming over after playing at South Carolina and everything. What has that been like meeting new faces on the team?
It's been great. I think that our coaches do such a fantastic job of bringing together like-minded people who are just all around good people and great softball players. And so immediately the girls came in who were new this year, and we've clicked right away. It's been so fun. I love Elena. She has a fantastic personality, also such a phenomenal pitcher. And I think, she complements the staff that we already had really well. She's got a fantastic drop ball. And I think that complements, me and Jordan Johnson very well. We're both upspin rise ball. We got Elizabeth Hightower this year, and she's great. She also brings in a lot of spin. She's got fantastic changeup. I love her changeup. And some other Florida Gators. So we have Hannah Adams this year playing second base. We also have Katie Kistler in right field, you know, the one who hit the home run in Oklahoma that nobody could find. So we're really excited. We have Madison Kennedy from Mississippi State, who was a big slugger. We also added Taylor from LSU and Allie
Taylor
Newland
Pleasance,
from
Allie Newton,
LSU.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're really excited. Unfortunately, Taylor did have surgery on her finger, so she will not be playing, but she is around. And then we have the returners from last year, me, Grayson Radcliffe, Carmen Greenwood, Kara Canetto, Jordan Johnson, Michaela Paprota, Sierra Frazier. I'm trying to think. I don't want to forget anybody.
Well, tell the audience, first of all, where they can
But
find more information on the Vibe.
definitely, yeah. So you can go to our website, vibesoftball.com. You can also follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram page. We also have a Twitter. You can also follow the other professional teams like the Steam and the Spark. If you go to our website, you can find links to our full schedule. You can also buy tickets online. You can see our roster. You can go straight to our team store where you can buy t-shirts, hats, replica jerseys, all kinds of fun things. And then also, if you have an Athletes Go Live subscription, you can watch all of our games all summer long. And so you don't have to be there in person. If you want to watch, you can watch all of our games on Athletes Go Live.
It's good you guys are coexisting. You and a bunch of Gators. I did not. That's gotta.
I
You're
know.
outnumbered now.
I know, but honestly, it's so fun. And this is one reason why I love the world of pro softball so much because, you know, you play against these girls your whole life and that you're like mortal enemies, like Florida State and Florida. And then you come together and it's like, oh my gosh, I love you. You're so awesome. And you're such a great softball player. And now we're playing together. And, you know, you get to experience those things that you wouldn't get to experience outside of college. So, all of these girls, I've absolutely loved it. And I actually get to learn about all these different programs as well. Like, what's it like playing at Florida? What's it like playing for Tim Walton? We only see one side of things. And then we talk about similarities and differences. And, you know, they're really not that different from us.
That's
And
funny.
yeah, even though, you know, in that environment, it's
Sure.
like crazy and you hate each other and you want to beat each other. And now we've got the same goal.
What keeps you going to keep playing? Because I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff that you're doing. So it's not like you're not busy. You got a lot of stuff. We'll get into your broadcasting stuff from this past year and how it went because you're doing not just softball but baseball. So you got a lot of things going on. So it's not like you have to play, but clearly you want to keep playing. What keeps you playing?
I think outside of college, well, going back to Florida State, I really found a new love for softball at Florida State. And so before, if you would have asked me if I wanted to play pro ball, I would have said no. I wanted to be done. I wanted to move on with my life. And like I said, I found this new love for softball at Florida State and wanted that opportunity. But when I graduated, it was just post COVID. There wasn't a WPF league yet. The AFP wasn't a thing yet. All we had was AU, and AU only drafted 8 people, and that was also before they did AUX.
Sure.
So we really didn't have opportunities. So the only opportunity that I had was to go international. So I got to go and play in Italy that summer, and then when I came back, I really didn't know what life had in store for me. I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing, and then I got a call and asked to play for AUX, and so I did, and then I went back overseas, and then I got in contact with Ryan Moore and the Vibe. And truly, if I hadn't have had the experience that I had with the Vibe last summer, I don't know if I would still be playing. I think I may have been done, but I had so much fun. I tell people that it's the most fun that I've had since college, being with this team and getting to experience what we're doing. And really, my end goal is growing the game. I want to grow professional softball in 10 years from now. I want it to be big, and I want these athletes to be able to play pro softball and maybe not have to have a bunch of other jobs on the side just to be able to do it. And if I can be a part of that, I think that's amazing. So that's one of my main reasons why I continue to do it. Also, because I still love softball and I'm not done playing. And I think when I do broadcasting, I want to be out there so badly. I want to be in the game, I want to be a part of it. And when I don't feel that anymore, that's when I know, hey, maybe it's time, hang up the cleats. But until that day, I plan on playing. So
So you got a
it's
lot.
just
So you
that
got a lot more to go. Is what you're saying.
hopefully, if my body allows it, we'll see.
Very fair. Well, let's talk about some of the things you're doing. You mentioned the broadcast. You had a busy year broadcasting.
I did.
You did Tennessee Volunteers baseball, which as
Yeah.
we're recording this, they're in Omaha in the College World Series. They're the number one seed in the sport, a win away from the playing for the national championship. But what you've been also doing, you sprinkled in some of the other teams. You do softball and baseball. Tell the audience what your year was like from a broadcasting standpoint.
So I actually also did a little bit of volleyball and basketball for Tennessee as well in the
Wow.
fall. Yeah, so I played basketball growing up. I love basketball. It's probably one of my favorite sports to watch outside of baseball and softball. And so I reached out to the producer at Tennessee. I still had a good connection with her from when I played there, and she was like, yeah, sure, we'll give you some opportunities. And I fell in love with it. And especially volleyball. I didn't know how much I actually loved volleyball until I got to be a part of that broadcast production. And Tennessee volleyball was fantastic this year. They had such a good team, and I just had a blast doing it. So I got to do a few games for them in the fall. I got to do a basketball game. And then going into the spring, I got to do obviously FSC softball. I'll always go back and do FSC softball. I got to do Tennessee baseball. So I got to do about 15 games for Tennessee baseball, which was such a blessing. And then I also got to do a little bit for Western Kentucky. One of my teammates, Carmen Greenwood, is an assistant coach there. So she hooked me up, and I got to be a part of their production crew, and I got to do a baseball game for them as well. And that was a lot of fun. And then I got to do some Virginia Tech series, and that was a lot of fun. I had never, you know, worked for Virginia Tech before, and they were fantastic. I loved it. And then I was blessed to get to work the SoCon tournament. So the postseason tournament for SoCon softball, that was great. I had a blast doing that. They were fantastic. And I was so excited because my goal for myself this year was to get to do a post conference tournament, and I got to do that. So I was really, really happy about that and just had so much fun.
Well, and that was, of course, Chattanooga won that conference tournament. Frank Reed, who I got to cover his team in Tallahassee because they got sent to
Yeah.
Tallahassee Regional, and they gave Florida State all they can handle. They led Florida State most of that game. I was there, Caylan. I don't remember. I think I may have reached out to you to see where you were, but you were. I think you were doing stuff. But
Yeah.
they were up 2-0 most of that game. Florida State kind of pulled it out at the end and snuck by. I know you probably weren't surprised that Chattanooga pushed FSU, having seen them in person, and talking to Frank Reed. He said that was the best team he's ever had there, which is saying something with the success that he's had there. But what was it like? You mentioned that was a goal of yours to call a conference tournament. Those are always exciting, but it's also a lot of work because there's a lot of games and a lot of teams to learn from. So what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. I think it was 13 games as a whole, and it was definitely a challenge. But I mean, I literally just got to sit and talk about softball all day long. Like we did, I think the most we did in a day was 4 games. And by that fourth game, you're a little tired. You're a little, brain's a little mushy, but I wouldn't rather do anything else than sit and watch softball all day long. And then what I did when I got home was I went and watched the other conference tournaments. So it was just literally softball all day, every day. And it was great getting to talk to those coaches, and UNCG was where they had it. They have a beautiful
Oh,
field.
Greensboro, yeah.
Yeah, they have a gorgeous field. And Chattanooga and UNCG ended up playing in the championship, and Chattanooga had to beat them twice, and they did. And it was just scrappy, and I absolutely loved it. And Kaylee Phillips, who's the third baseman for UTC, she actually is now playing with this team. So I'm excited to get to actually play against her this go around instead of talking about her. And she did great. She hit like a beast. She's got so much power. And Brooklyn Maxwell, who was the shortstop and the SoCon Player of the Year for UNCG, she's playing with this team as well. So it's all full circle, and I'm really excited about it. And I had a great time. I was so proud of some of those teams like Wofford. It was their very
First
first
year.
season. Yeah. And they did great. They came out and had a great run at it. I think they were ranked fifth. I mean, to be at your first year and to come out ranked fifth, they were great. They had fantastic pitching. I loved it.
Well, you got to cover, yeah, that rivalry that is UNCG and Chattanooga. They're always contending.
Yeah.
Coach Brenneman does a great job there at UNCG, so that's pretty good. Did you chuckle when you saw the bracket unveiled and you saw Chattanooga matched up with FSU?
Yeah, I did. I was like, wow, now this is really full circle. I just covered this team and now they're going to my home. And so it was a lot of fun getting to watch and knowing both teams so well at that point, knowing Florida State and UTC and getting to see that matchup. And I knew that UTC was going to go with Peja Gould, and she did great.
She was
She's
amazing.
yeah,
So you were
very
not surprised.
spinny.
You were not
No,
surprised how good she was. Okay.
no, I knew speed wise, she's 58 to maybe touching 60 every now and then. So speed wise, she's wasn't at what FSU was used to seeing, but her spin rate was pretty ridiculous. I mean, that curveball that she was throwing, it was just swooping across the plate, and I knew that she would have success with that pitch, especially in her changeup. She also has a really good drop ball that she was using a lot. So I knew that she was going to be able to compete against Florida State and their hitters. So I wasn't surprised at all that they went with her. And then Kaylee Phillips was actually a transfer from Tennessee. So I did get to play with her actually at Tennessee. We played together. And I mean, I think in her freshman season at Tennessee, she hit 10 home runs. Like she's always just been a slugger. So I knew that she would have no problem against that caliber of pitching that she was going to see from Florida State.
Yeah, she shut out FSU for most of it, and people are wondering, is the four going to upset the one seed here?
Yeah.
But Florida State, it looked like she maybe ran out of gas at the end, but that's tough. And then the next day, you could tell they were still kind of hangover from that tight, tough loss against FSU against Auburn. They kind of
Yeah.
did deal, but they represented themselves very well
Yeah.
in that regional that Florida State ended up winning. Over Auburn. There was a lot of stuff going on in that region. I was there until 3 in the morning, Kayla. I was the one that was
Yeah.
there when Auburn and UCF were playing until 3 in the morning there in that
Oh, wow.
elimination game.
Yeah.
But I remember now. Now I remember because I think I did reach out. I think you had a Tennessee game around that time period that you couldn't have
I
probably.
think so.
That's probably you
Yep,
didn't
I think
want
so.
because I think yeah, and so and that's kind of a segue I want to do because we've talked about this. You've committed to doing baseball and softball both. Maybe it's something in the water because you and Alex Powers are the same. Doing the same thing. I get to work with Alex when she does UCF games when she's not doing FSU stuff. But when did you decide I want to do both, not just settle on one? Because some people are more comfortable saying, you know what, I'll just do this one sport. But you're not. You're clearly want to be involved in as many sports as possible, and we'll get to your fall sports because I didn't know about that. But just the commitment that you've done the last couple of years, where you're not only just taking in softball, you're taking in a good number of college baseball.
I think that there are so few women that you see in baseball, especially as a color analyst. Really, I can only think of a handful, Jessica Mendoza being one of them.
Sure.
And I want to be in that space. I want to create an opportunity for other women who want to do baseball. And truly, I think that it was hard at first. It was definitely a little bit of a challenge just because not that the game is different. Ultimately, the game is the game, but timing wise was different. Softball is a lot quicker, baseball is a little bit longer. I had to really try to do my best to familiarize myself with baseball pitching. And because that's insight that I can give in softball, and I can give mental insight and things like that with baseball. But when it comes to specific pitches, I really didn't know going into it those pitches, what they looked like, how they throw them. So I had to do a lot of research. My husband is actually a high school baseball coach, so he and I would sit and we'd watch a lot. And then he's a Tennessee baseball fan, so we would sit and we would watch a lot of games together and talk about the game and talk about the ins and outs and the pitching and why this happened and why that happened. And ultimately, it really is the same game at the fundamental level. I also talked a lot with TCAM from Florida State. He's a baseball guy, started in baseball, coached baseball, and going into one of my bigger games that I did with Tennessee, which was against South Carolina. I texted him and asked advice and different things that he looks for as a coach and as a baseball fan, like what he likes to see and hear on a broadcast. And so I've tried to do a lot of research into it, and I've really fallen in love with it as well. And it helps when the team is as good as Tennessee is this year and the offense is able to produce the way that they have. It makes it a lot of fun when it's kind of like a home run derby almost every single game. But
Yeah, what year is this for you doing Tennessee baseball?
so I last year I did maybe 2 games.
Right.
It was very, very like kind of get my feet wet, and it was at the very end of the season. So technically, I wouldn't even consider that a year of me doing anything because it was really just a small amount of games and me just getting my feet wet. This year, I would say was my first real year doing Tennessee baseball. And I think I was just able to get better and better every single game as it went on, learning more. And like I said, doing a lot of research and trying to be as prepared as possible.
How
But
much
I had a blast.
how much feedback, if any, you get? I mean, it's unique because it's not just this is one of the number one ranked team in the country, if you will. Tennessee, a
Yeah.
team that is uh, very polarizing. Everybody likes watching them play. The numbers have backed that up, either because they love to watch them play, or maybe they want to see them lose. Either way, they're interesting. So
Hmm.
that scrutiny that comes with that because you've got eyeballs watching this broadcast. So I'm sure you're not that you wouldn't do less prep. You're doing all the prep to begin with, but there is some scrutiny that comes with that. What feedback have you gotten as you've gotten comfortable doing a team that is very well known and then beautiful stadium, by the way, which
Oh yeah.
it looks incredible on television with the atmosphere.
Yeah, and the renovations that they did this year, I mean, they're not even done,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. It's a beautiful stadium, fantastic place to watch baseball. I think at first people were a little hesitant just because a lot of people aren't used to hearing a woman's voice on the screen when talking about baseball. But I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from fans, from former Tennessee baseball players who have reached out to me and told me that, they love hearing my commentary. I work with a coach. So I work with Annie Hoffman, who's also Alex Powers' broadcasting coach. So
Oh,
we will watch and go over games, and she'll tell me like this needs to be better, you need to do more of this. And so all in all, though, I'm really happy with the feedback that I've gotten. And I'm one, like, growing up in sports, I'm used to criticism. I'm used to constructive criticism, especially people telling me what I need to do better. And I want to hear those things because I want to be the best that I can be on the TV. So all in all, though, I think it's been majority positive.
well, that's great, and you sounded good, and you enjoy it, and I think people can tell that. I think people always look for is this person like invested in it? You're invested in it, like you're
Yeah.
right. Like you probably have been keeping track with them throughout, even
Oh
when they got
yeah.
pushed to the to a game 3 with Evansville with the
Yeah.
Super Regional. I mean, it's been a pretty dramatic run for them. Of course, though, as we're recording this, they're playing Florida State. Which I just find that funny. They played the craziest, maybe one of the craziest World Series baseball games ever on Friday night.
Oh
Which
my gosh.
holy mackerel, that had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And as we're recording this, they will be played in Wednesday, and all that. What is that like for you? Because you went to school at Florida State, you played softball at FSU, but I'm sure you know people that are around the FSU baseball program. There's ties you have there. On the other hand, you do broadcast for the Tennessee games. You have ties there because you know the people, some of the players and the coaches that Coach Vitello and stuff. So, what has that been like for you that these two programs are pretty much in the same bracket colliding here?
It's definitely tough. Just because I do love both programs. I, like you said, have connections to both programs. And it's really, I think it just comes down to like the best baseball and the best team wins. And if you're able to execute and you show up that day, the best team is going to win. And I'm not going to say that I want one team to win more than the other because I'm happy. Like school that I went to school at and yeah, am alumni at, like if they win, great. The school that I work for now, like love that team and what they've been able to do. And I think that they're fantastic this year, just all around. And Coach Vitello, I think he really loves the guys. I think he gives his all for the guys. And when you have a coach like that, I think you see that in the players. And that's one of the reasons why I've really loved watching the Tennessee baseball team this year is because they do love Coach Vitello and they love to play for Coach Vitello. And so I think that either way, either team is both very deserving. I think they've both put in the work this year. I think they're both fantastic offensively.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, Christian Moore is one of the best baseball players in the country right now. So it is tough. I mean, you hate seeing both teams. And I mean, the first game, I mean, that was crazy on both ends. So many different things. And I honestly wouldn't even say that was the cleanest baseball from top to bottom.
No, it was
But
wild.
it was entertaining. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely difficult. I'm happy either way. But I hate seeing both teams going through the struggles of it.
I'm curious when you watch, because I'm sure you've watched some of the postseason games. You've definitely probably watched some of the World Series games there. Are you watching it as a fan, or are you listening closely to, like, for example, Kyle Peterson, who's like the voice, the best analyst out there when it comes to college baseball? Everybody knows he's done it now 15 years. They have Ben McDonald, Chris Burken. Are you listening more as a broadcaster to maybe pick up some things because you're doing baseball? I'm curious, what's it like when you watch a game? Because you might have a different perspective.
I definitely don't watch baseball or softball as a fan anymore. I'm watching as a student. And so when I am listening to whoever it is, baseball, softball, I'm taking notes, whether that be mentally or physically. Sometimes it's physically. I'm taking notes like, oh yeah, that was really good. Or I like the way that they said that, especially with a lot of the baseball lingo. Like a lot of it is the same as softball. Sometimes it's different though. And I want to make sure that I'm up to date on what guys are saying and what people want to hear. So I'm always listening and watching now more as a student than as just a fan.
Yeah, I think anybody that does broadcasting, you're kind of almost part of it is like you're more just as interested in how it sounds than what you're seeing, right? Like
Right.
I think that means you've got the hook. You're hooked now, Caylan. You
I'm
realize
hooked.
that you're
I'm
hooked.
definitely
You're
hooked.
addicted. Like you and me, we're addicted. Now you mentioned you called volleyball and what, women's basketball?
I did, yeah, for Tennessee this fall.
I mean, let me just, that's to be a part of a Tennessee women's basketball broadcast and the history of that program, which you know very
Yeah.
well. Was that like what was that like for you? Because that's not many could say they were at Pat Summit Court calling a game
Yeah.
for the broadcast.
It was very surreal because I actually grew up playing basketball and wanting to play at Tennessee for Pat Summit. Like she is the end all be all. And so getting to do that, getting to be a part of that, like I had some butterflies before, and it wasn't even a like a big game. They were playing Chattanooga or not Chattanooga. They were playing Karsten Newman, so just right down the road. But it was still so fun, and it was just completely different. Volleyball and basketball, completely different pace from baseball, softball. Everything is fast, everything is moving quick, and so that was a little bit of a challenge for me because you've got to get your points out quick because they're moving on to the next thing right
Yep.
away.
Yep.
And so that was a lot of fun. I had so much fun doing it and getting to be a part of that in the history of Lady Vols basketball. It was so much fun. And then same thing with volleyball, getting to be a part of what they were able to accomplish this season, hosting a regional for the first time in like I think it was 11 years, something
Yeah.
crazy. They had some of the best players in the nation as well on the court playing for them, getting to be a part of that, getting to talk to those girls and talk to Coach Rackham Watt, who was the SEC Coach of the Year this year. It was so much fun. And I found a love for volleyball that I didn't know that I had. That is such a fun sport to watch and to be a part of.
And did you play volleyball when you get older?
No,
No, okay,
I
so
did not.
you're the exception to the rule because I've called some
Yeah,
volleyball and I have talked to a lot of volleyball players that told me they played softball, both volleyball and
really.
softball,
Yeah,
but they picked volleyball or vice versa. I've had
vice
softball players.
versa. Yeah.
So I always was kind of fascinated if there was some direct connection there, maybe the hand-eye coordination part of it or something. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I did play basketball growing up. I played
That's
basketball
yeah,
throughout high
makes sense.
school. Yeah, I never played volleyball though, so I had to prepare and learn. So I watched a lot of volleyball going into my first game. I bought a book on Amazon. On Amazon, it was like volleyball for dummies or something. Like
Sure.
learning all the rules, learning all the lingo, the slang, and so I would watch a lot of volleyball, and especially watch games that I knew a former volleyball player was working as the analyst because I wanted to hear what they had to
Sure.
say, and I
Makes
would
sense.
take notes. Yeah, I would take notes of things that they said and make sure that I knew exactly what that was and how it fit into the game and going into it. And I wanted to make sure that because I know what it's like listening to a game when obviously the person who's working it doesn't know what's going on. And I didn't want to be that. Like I wanted people to enjoy listening to the broadcast and know that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this game. And I think my one of my favorite moments in my entire broadcasting career, as short as it is so far, but was Coach Rackham Watt coming to me after the game and telling me that I was doing a great job and that she loved listening to me. And I was like, whoa, like she is an SEC volleyball coach. That's huge. And so I think that was probably my favorite moment so far in the 3 years, first year that I did volleyball, but 3 years as a broadcaster.
Yeah, I would say if you've got the volleyball coach approval, then you're good. That's a good
Yeah,
sign because they're pretty
yeah,
demanding. They're pretty demanding.
definitely.
So that makes a ton of sense. What's your long term goal broadcasting wise?
I want to work for ESPN and network. I think what everybody's goal is, whether that be ACC, SEC, either or, Big Ten, doing something like that. I'm open to doing every and any sport, any opportunity that I can get. Obviously, softball and baseball, those are my two passions, but I found this love for volleyball. I have a love for basketball. I would love to be involved in that as well. My goal for myself next year is I want to call a regional. So kind of like, moving up the
Sure.
ladder a little bit. So this year was conference tournament. Next year I would love to do a regional. And just go from there.
Have you considered like maybe trying to get in some like hosting opportunities or sideline to just add to the portfolio you've got, instead of
Yes.
just okay.
Yes. So that's my goal as well going into this is in the fall, potentially getting sideline opportunities, whether that be with basketball, volleyball, even football, if that's an option for me. I would
Sure.
love to do that as well. I would love to host. I think that would be so fun. I know one of my former Vibe teammates, AJ Andrews, she's a
Yeah.
host with MLB. I would
Yeah.
love to do something like that as well. I think that would be just an amazing opportunity. So a lot of open doors, a lot of
Well, and
possibilities
that's
for
where
me.
that's where the industry's going, where it's versatility. If you could
Yeah,
do multiple things, that's a big plus.
yeah,
So that's why I kind of brought that up because you're starting to see more and more people that maybe could do color, but can also do silent, or they could do play whatever they could do, but
yeah,
multi sports, like you said,
yeah.
are very significant on that. Let's talk a little bit about softball. Put your softball analyst hat. Every time I have you on, I feel like there's always some big transfer portal addition.
Yeah,
It's not even like I don't even like. It's not on purpose. It's just something always comes up
it just works
every
out that
year
way.
because we've talked about this when you've been on the podcast before. Because when you entered, that was like a big deal because that was kind of early in the portal where nobody
Yeah,
really knew exactly what this was about, what to expect. You even have said that you didn't know what to expect when you
yeah.
decided to enter the portal. What's it like for you now that we're a few years removed from that? And we're still seeing a lot of additions there. And obviously, we'll get to the big one, the big fish that happened on Monday. They got a lot of people talking. But what's it been like for you now, seeing it from an analyst standpoint with these movement? Because that will affect you from a broadcast standpoint. Because this player now plays here, and that player plays there. So it does affect you to some extent, where you need to follow it closely just from that standpoint alone.
Right. So, like you said, when I went into the portal, it was actually the very first year of the portal. And I
Yeah,
think the first two big transfers to use it was Sam Chow from Texas A&M to OSU and then me.
yeah.
And I think,
You two
yeah,
were
we
the
were like,
biggest two. You two were the big names
yeah,
that got a lot of talk, and that's the you're always that's the for better or for worse. You two
Yeah.
were had to somebody had to be the first two, and you two. I don't remember who was first. It was you or her, but
It was Sam. Yeah, Sam was the first one.
that's right.
Yeah,
And then you,
and
yeah,
because she did halfway through the year, so she
yeah.
did her fall at A&M, and then halfway through decided to go to OSU. So she was the first one, and then I kind of followed behind that. So we were sort of like the guinea pigs, like navigating the waters. How is this going to work? And it was a pretty crazy experience. Just how any coach anywhere can contact you. I think I had over 60 emails like within 3 days from different schools. It was pretty intense. But it was really cool, and I'm really blessed that I ended up where I ended up. And I think Sam is very happy with where she ended up
Sure.
in her career and what she was able to accomplish at OSU. And I think that now, though, it looks different because that was before NIL, and that was also
Yeah.
before a lot of rule changes where you can go in conference and you don't have to sit out a year, and you can pretty much go to a school and start playing the next day. It's different than it was when we first went into it. So I think now there's a lot more thought that goes into the process for an athlete, especially when pro ball is still so new. Right now, college, that's pretty much like the highest level money wise that you can play at as a softball player. So, these girls who are making the big bucks NIL wise, they're not going to make that much playing pro ball. You are going to make some, but you're not going to make as much as you're making in college. So it's really, if you want to make some money and you want to make a big name for yourself and you want to get out there and you're the player of the nation, the player of the world, the best everywhere, you have to make smart business decisions. And I don't fault anyone for that. I don't fault anyone for trying to do what is best for themselves in the short 4 years that they have.
So when you saw the news that Najee Kennedy had entered the portal, what was your reaction? Because you have a unique perspective, a lot different than a lot of people on social media that maybe react however they decide to react. You have a unique perspective because you've been in those shoes. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what goes to your mind when you hear something with Najee, like someone at the statue of a Najee Kennedy that, not to take away from other athletes, because she's not the only one. There's a lot of athletes that enter the portal, but with everything she's accomplished during her time, it's just like you, just like Samit, you're going to get more attention because of it.
Yeah, I think I really wasn't that shocked. I Not that I expected it, but I thought that it could be a possibility. Just because, like I said, this is her opportunity to really make a name for herself, even more so in the softball world. And this is her opportunity. I'm not sure if money was a driving force at all, but this is her opportunity to take advantage of NIL and take advantage of opportunities that she may not get outside of college. And the game is different now. It's completely different than it used to be pre-portal and pre-NIL. So, a lot of people were upset because they're like, why would she give up a Stanford education for a potential NIL opportunity or to win a championship, whatever it is that went into her decision. But maybe a Stanford education isn't what she wants, like moving forward. Maybe her degree or whatever she wants to do, maybe she wants to own a facility and give lessons and coach for the rest of her life. Maybe she wants to be a college coach, and you don't necessarily have to have a Stanford degree to do that. And I think that there's so much that goes into an athlete's decision into going into the portal nowadays, even more so than when I went into the portal. And you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what their experiences are. And I mean, these are life-changing circumstances now. And so I think people have to look at it from that perspective. It's not just about getting the degree anymore. It's about, what do I want for my future for the rest of my life? And is this going to benefit me? And so I think that's ultimately what she needed going into this, and what went into that thought process.
You made a great point that I just didn't realize until you brought it up. When you entered, there was no NIL, and you couldn't, in theory, you could not transfer within the SEC, for example, because you would have had to, or at least if you did, you would have had to sit out a year. I remember this because Skylar Wallace, when she transferred, she decided to go from Alabama, Florida. She had to sit out a year because she was denied it there. Now that's gone. How
Yeah.
much if NIL was in play when you were entering the portal, how much do you think that would have affected your process? Maybe not your final decision, but that right that's an interesting wrinkle in all this that you do have to think about.
Yeah, it definitely would have affected the process, I think. Not sure about the outcome. I think, Florida State was the place that I was meant to be ultimately. But I mean, it definitely, I think, would have made a dent in it. And I think now, like that, it just, there's so much more that goes into these decisions for these athletes. There's so much more than just the education or just the softball program. It's life-changing decisions potentially. So I think that for me, if I would have experienced that, I probably would have gone on maybe a few more visits, maybe had a few more phone calls, um, potentially. But I'm not sure how that would have affected my decision. But it is a lot more than it used to be.
Well, because of NIL, have heard athletes in all cross sports have representation to help them in a
Right.
lot of ways with that. You probably, I don't know if you would have seeked out a representation, or would you have just still wanted to make that, make it all, on your shoulders, or would you have wanted that help to have some representation to help you through all that? It's kind of a what if. But it's kind of crazy that all that has changed since you entered, which was not that long ago.
I know it's literally been 3 years, really, since I graduated. Um, I guess it would be 5 years since
Yeah.
I entered. So yeah, just in 5 years, just how much has changed is crazy. And I think that I don't know if I would have had like an agent per se, like what a lot of people have now. I really don't know because I really don't know what my name would look like today in in the portal. Like Nija, her, I mean, she is National Player of the Year. That's huge. I completely understand her having representation and not wanting to maybe negotiate that. That is make those decisions on her own. She wants to have somebody who's been there, done that, who this is their job. I think it definitely helps a lot of athletes, especially when you have a name like Nija or a name like Jordy Ball, to be able to have someone who can help you through that process. I know it was a stressful process without all of
Yeah.
this extra stuff added on to it. So,
I've had players tell me, some of them have said, I'm glad that this came in. It's great. I've had other players say, I'm kind of glad I didn't have NIL when I had to deal with this because that would have created more stress.
yeah.
And maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you would have felt about that. Would you have wanted to have NIL, or is that one of those things where, you know what? That might have complicated things maybe more than it should. I mean, I'm kind of glad the way that I played when I did. I don't know where you stand on that because that's the thing that struck me is some of the players I've talked to that have been in the portal. There's been like differences of opinion about that when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that I'm glad that I didn't have all of that added stress, but I would like to have used my own name in several
Yeah,
circumstances. I couldn't even broadcast that I was giving lessons over the summer because I didn't own my name.
right.
So I could only, tell people by word of mouth that I was like, giving pitching lessons to make a little extra money in the summer. So or camps, working camps, they couldn't broadcast that I was going to be there. So I think that in that perspective, I would have liked it, but just, and I honestly, if I could have graduated with like, a couple $1,000 in my bank account, that would have been pretty nice to help start my life after college. But that the added stress, it definitely makes you think twice about it.
And again, this is not a softball thing. This is like all sports, college
All
sports. I mean,
sports,
college
yeah.
baseball, it's the same. In basketball, I was just listening to a podcast on college basketball where a player's transferring to a Big 12 school in Kansas State and is going to make $2 million.
Oh
Money.
my gosh.
I mean, it's wild out there, but in defense of the players, like, we got schools that are like kind of entering their own transfer portal by changing conferences. It's kind of wild times in college athletics. That's all we can
It
say.
is. It is definitely.
All right. Let me let you go on this because you got to get going. And you've been very kind. You played this weekend in Clearwater against the Texas Smoke. What did you learn about yourself and the team that weekend, and maybe some things you're going to work on for the rest of the year?
Definitely. I learned that my first game back after not playing for a year, I am super juiced up. So my adrenaline was through the roof, which was great, but it definitely caused a little bit of control issues. So I wasn't as effective as I may normally be. But I was so excited to be back out there, so excited to be playing softball and to be playing against against and with girls that I played with in college and against in college. So it was just ultimately the best time. Like I just still love playing softball so much. And moving forward, definitely things to work on. Gonna maybe run some laps or something before I head out there to try and, bring the tire myself out a little bit. Um, but it's just so fun being in that team environment with these girls and just getting to play a game that we all love. It's fantastic. And I'm looking forward to this week and just continuing to get to play for this whole summer. And it's my favorite time of the year, truly. Like when I get to just play softball and not worry about anything else and just have fun with these girls and get to grow the game and just be a part of it. I love it so much, and I can't wait to start tomorrow and play against the Steam for the first time.
And you'll be in Chattanooga all week playing in the tournament. Tell the audience one more time about the tournament where they can find more information.
Definitely. So the tournament is in Chattanooga during Scenic City, which is a big travel ball tournament. All the games are going to be at Frost Stadium, which is where UTC plays. The games are going to be at 7:30 in the evening and 11 a.m. in the afternoon. And yeah, so you can come by any day, Wednesday through Saturday, and catch a game, 11 a.m. or 7:30 p.m. And then afterwards, you can meet the players, you can get autographs, you can do a lot of fun things, meet some of your favorite softball players. You can also watch it live on Athletes Go Live if you have a subscription, so you don't even have to be there to watch pro softball.
That is Caylan Arnold joining us here on In the Circle D1 Softball. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. Always love talking to you. Thanks for fitting me in on your busy schedule. You're a busy person.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
yeah.
Have fun, not just this week in Chattanooga, but the rest of the year. I'll be following closely, as you know, and we'll definitely have you on again soon. But in the meantime, have fun, all right?
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me on. I always love being on In the Circle, and you guys do a great job of keeping everybody up to date on what's going on in the softball world.